Well, hi again, everybody. Our last lecture, this one's a good one. We're going to talk about picture stories and photo essays, my favorite subject. The ultimate use of photography is to tell a great story, isn't it? One that moves people. Or it could be to simply smile or to motivate them to save the planet even. Photo stories are, pure and simple, the highest calling in still photography. So it's fitting that our last lecture is about telling a story with pictures. Now that you're feeling good about what makes individual frames sing, let's jump right in and see if we can't build a real photo essay or two. A wide variety of light, situations, lens choices, and above all, storytelling moments are the heart of any good photo story. Whether you're putting together a photo essay, a web gallery, or a vacation slideshow, getting your images in the right sequence and edited down well can really elevate your work and make it so attention-grabbing. It's very important. But this all takes time. Great moments are going to happen in front of your camera only so often, so you've got to be patient. The perseverance of the photographer plays a huge role in determining the end results. Photo stories, no matter what their final format or final presentation form, should have a great deal of variety, be well executed, and should have a beginning, middle, and an end. Translation: you'll be shooting and editing a lot of pictures to pull this off well, but it is so worth it. So in this lecture, we're going to look first at a story about Alaska's North Slope, then at a story about people at Leech Lake, Minnesota, and finally at a little work in progress or two, and my personal work on the loss of biodiversity to extinction. I'm in the middle of working on that one, and it may very well be my life's work. I plan on doing it for the next 10 years at least. So let's get started. Whenever I'm doing a photo story, I start with a wide or an establishing shot of some kind, something that feels like an opener. Good beginnings of photo stories grab viewers' attention and let them know right away what the story is about. Your establishing pictures should be well done technically and also give your viewer a real sense of place and establishing where the drama coming up will be played out. So let's look at this. For my story on Alaska's North Slope, how do you get any more dramatic? Aerials are my establishing shots. Basically, here we go. We know we're in some big, rough, rugged country, don't we? And here we go on to the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, onto the coastal plain, with thousands of caribou down below us. So just a few pictures here that take us a beginning, middle, and an end. A little picture story, that's all we're trying to do. We know there's industrial action up there. They produce a lot of oil. There's a lot of roads. Caribou try to cross in front of the traffic. We want to do detail shots in picture stories, don't we? Detail shots, those are very important. This is a typical picture of cotton grass, but maybe it's a little less typical because we're down low. We've got a worm's eye view going. How else can we do a detail shot? Well, we can make detail shots from a medium shot, believe it or not. Look at the bugs in that. Reminds me how buggy it was. Mosquitoes everywhere, holy cow. So we've got a team of people catching up geese for scientific research, white-fronted geese. They're flightless at that time of the year, so they could round them up in nets, put leg bands on them, and let them go. While they had them in their hands, I went ahead and got ready and set up my camera for a pan, and when they let them go, I do a little panned action. So there's a little detail shot. It's a little bit different. Now for a real close-up, one's in the hand of one of those scientists. We do a real close-up detail shot. Now all of these pictures go to really prop up what I call the money shot, or the really good one in the story, this one. Now you've seen this before, but it's a polar bear on the carcass of a bowhead whale with the big jawbone sticking up. This one actually made it to the cover of National Geographic, which was nice, to say the least. And this is kind of the picture that you really want to envelop with all your other pictures. These detail shots, your openers, your closers, they all kind of support this picture and elevate this and get this into the magazine. That you really need all these pictures working as a team to really come together and work as a story and tell the story of the place well. And then an ender. A good story's got to have an ender, just like going to the movies or listening to a good song. What's your ender? Well, how about a rainbow over a caribou antler? That feels like an ender to me. So, little bitty photo story there, beginning, middle, and end. That's it. That's all there is to it. But you have to be thinking about these elements when you're shooting. They don't just happen in the edit. You have to get them first. You can't edit them if they don't exist, right? So the nice thing about a picture story is it tells you where you are. So you just naturally assume that any shots within it are part of the same situation. The mind works that way. All these pictures are working together as a team, and they're really pulling their weight, and they're building on one another. So now let's look at a more extensive photo story, beginning, middle, and end again. These are pictures I shot up at Leech Lake, Minnesota, which is where our family goes to vacation every summer. Every summer, even though I'm there every year, in my pictures I try to capture daily life well and make it really sing. I'm trying to do a photo story here. Always trying that. So what is this? It's just kind of a lyrical shot of the woods. Our cabin along Leech Lake is deep in the woods. That's just a scene from the road driving in, probably a half-second exposure. It's a little bit different. I like different. Different's good. Okay, so here we are on the lake, a little bit of a scene setter. We have some ducks on the lake. That's fine. That works. And now we're introducing people. There's Cole out there in a kayak, last light of day, and Ellen out on the boat dock where we stay at this Traders Bay Lodge. So that's fine. We're getting a few pictures here. I want to mention something else. As we go through these, notice that they're not in random order. I have sequenced these for you. We start driving through the woods and we come upon the lake, and now we're out swimming in the lake. I'm trying to do these things so that they're sequenced. Think of them like cars on a train. You put together all the lake pictures, that's a car. And then you put those together and now you switch to this. We've switched to land. We're going to have a few pictures of this tree, I bet. I bet we are. This tree, by the way, it's one of my favorite things up there. It's just got this tremendous bend in it, and I love it. And I study this thing, and I shoot it in lights that's not so good. I shoot it in lights that's good. A lot of activity goes around this thing, so that's kind of my touchstone up there. And I work this a lot, all the time. There's a rope swing off of it, and I go out there when the light's good mainly, and kids swing on that all hours of the day and night, and I use that tree and I try to photograph that thing in many different ways as possible every time I go up there. Little Spencer likes to climb it, likes to watch what the other kids are doing, kids from other towns that he doesn't know them. He uses that as a lookout. So I think about that tree a lot when I'm up there shooting. See how I've grouped all these trees together? This is my car on the train. This is of this tree. This is where we're going to see that. And Spencer leaving it when the light's good. Now, the other thing is, watch how I join this car up to the next one. We had great light come in on the back end of a storm one evening at sunset. Oh, look, there's my sister-in-law, Jeannie. There's our cabin in the background. She's taking a picture of me. Great light to great light. There's our linkage to hook those two train cars together. So we're telling a story. Not enough to have a beginning, middle, and an end. You have to have links. You have to be able to have easy transitions from one subject to the next. So let's go inside and we'll look at what that light's doing inside from the same storm. It's really casting a lot of great light indoors, even all the way to dinner time. Here's Ellen. Cole's watching the storm, seeing if it's going to get worse. And there she is, bathed in the last light of day at age 14. She'll never be any older than that. It's so cool the way pictures can freeze time, even though she's not really enjoying having her picture taken once more. And then we go all the way to the end of the day. Again, golden light, but this time, and it fits on that train car, but this golden light, it's caused by firelight, isn't it? We've learned about firelight and what a nice light source that is. A little bit of ambient light in the sky. Now, how am I going to transition to my next picture? How am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to make a clean break. Kathy's reading. Here's this. Next morning, off we go. We've started a new day. And Spencer's got his Star Wars helmet on that he bought at a garage sale. So he walks up to Kathy and he presses a button on the side and it says, "Halt in the name of the Empire." And she thinks that's funny. And I love the fact that I saw this coming. I was over here. I shot one from there. It wasn't very clean. But then I moved around and that helmet pops out of that window. Perfect. It's framed by the window. And her hand in there pointing at him really stands out. And it's just cute. And the light's nice and subtle. So we've made this transition from nighttime all the way into the next morning. So now here we are in daytime inside the cabin. That picture in the kitchen links to this kitchen picture. And now we're going to something in the bathroom with a bed sheet that's being hung up for privacy. So we go from this screen to this screen. Transitions, transitions, transitions to really help elevate the work. Editing well, that's what it's about. So we go to a mayfly on a screen. We know we're back outside. We know we're in nature. And we're back in nature. Now we're talking about fishing, okay? To my brother Paul holding up a northern pike that he's caught. Somebody holding something up to somebody holding something up. But now the light's bright and it's colorful. And now the light's bright and it's colorful. So we're trying to link these pictures together some way, either in terms of context or visually. They all have to link together, or you make a clean break like we did at breakfast time with Spencer in the helmet, and you go on to the next thing. So there we are. A couple of pictures like this. Beautiful, beautiful light up there when the sun's out. Just can't help it. Wanted to mention this too. Portraiture is a lovely, lovely thing to throw into a photo essay or a picture story. Oftentimes portraiture is overlooked, but I think it adds visual variety. I want you to notice something. I'm very proud of this picture, not because Ellen's finally happy in a picture, but because of the way that I've got those marshmallows standing out right against the back of Cole's shirt. Perfect. A little bit off to one side, a little lower. You would not be able to see that she burned her marshmallows at the marshmallow cookout. So I love that about this. I like her attitude, of course, but I love that those marshmallows stand out. That was kind of the whole point of the picture. So we go from that to just goofing around with the kids. Spencer with some other crazy thing he's got. Minnesota's wolf country. The carpet's appropriate. Some other portraits of Spencer, basically, as he's looking around. He's getting older. And, of course, Ellen again, portraiture. I love doing portraiture as parts of photo stories. Breaks up the monotony, visual variety. We need to keep it interesting, especially if we're showing a lot of pictures. We goof around a little bit. More depth of field gets us back there to that cloud. Cole and I goofing around. Cole's got a bright idea. So he's got a think bubble coming out of his head there, I guess. And then we're starting to drop in exposure. We're bringing on the night again. We're going to taper this thing off. We're going to wind it down. The light's going to drop. Sunset's coming. Lower light, lower light. Lower even to the point where you can see the pre-focus beam on that girl's face, on Ellen's cousin's face there as her friend takes a picture. That pre-focus beam, just a little hint of red, and Shannon's happy, she's smiling. Nice. And our last picture feels like a closer, kind of relaxing. Our last picture, Shannon reviewing the pictures on her camera. It's okay. Fantastic. That works. Nice. You know, a lot of the great photographs you see in National Geographic are shot in that twilight time, especially, you know, long after the sunset. Now cameras have this high ISO and it can really handle that low light. What a great time to be shooting. What a great time to have these cameras and to get these really special quiet moments. Love it, love it. So, I've talked a little bit about endings, but what should an ending be like? That's pretty obvious. Sunset, day's over with, the end, okay? Well, the final frame doesn't have to be shot in low light, but it does need to show a sense of completion a little bit. This is also shot up at Leech Lake. That looks like an ender to me. That looks like an ender. It could be something as simple as girls waving to a cute boy out on the lake, or it could be kids asleep in the back of a car coming home, or it could just be sundown on a pasture. A little less obvious, but closing pictures give us a real sense of finality and completion, and we know we are done. It's like a good, strong finish, again, to a movie, okay? So you shoot lots and lots of things, and you build these picture stories or photo essays, praying that you get a couple good shots. They're just so killer and so good, they make the whole effort worthwhile, right? You have all these other pictures that are good around them, but it's those few marvelous pictures that really give a story what I call high octane or energy, the real keepers, the money shots. Another key thing about telling a story with pictures is the amount of time you need to put into it. I can't stress this enough. This is why using your family is a good place to start when it comes to taking lots of pictures. You don't want to abuse it, but truly, you have so much time with your family. This is a subject that I would start on if I were you and you haven't tried this before. In fact, a lifetime project for me is documenting my family. It's very critical that we think about the richness and the variety and the diversity of our lives all around us, at home and in our hometowns. Don't abuse it. Don't abuse it. Just be careful. Don't shoot everything. Be discriminating. Keep that camera ready and shoot when interesting things are happening. Simple as that. Your loved ones will thank you for it. The keys to any good photo essay are time and access. It's very hard to build a photo story on something that you don't have much access to. I've seen lots of photo stories, by the way, that are brilliant. But if you were to take any one picture out of it and look at it standing alone, it really wouldn't have the same impact. In a photo essay or a picture story, the whole is so much stronger than just the parts if you look at them individually. That's really the true nature of this. By the way, I keep talking about picture story and photo essay. To me, there's a simple difference. A photo story is something that has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's pretty obvious. Could be shot quickly of, let's say, a weekend event. A photo essay, to me, is a collection of images along a theme. A photographic essay is often less obvious, for example, in its storyline. It might combine fine art with storytelling, so it doesn't have to be quite so literal. Maybe a collection of images, that's it. As such, I really consider the photographic essay the best experience you can have in photography. If you can pull off a great photo essay, it's a bit like climbing Mount Everest. It's very hard to do. Now, whether it's your family or something else entirely, choose your subject for your photo essay carefully. You want something that's physically close to you so that you can work it over and over again throughout the months and even the years. Remember, choose something that's going to be around for a while and something you care deeply about. You two are going to be stuck together for a long time, you and this photo essay. There are very few photo essays in each of us, by the way. We just don't live that long. We don't have that much time. Be really careful about what you choose. For me personally, since you've endured the course with me all this time, I'll just tell you personally, since I was young, my passion has been endangered species. Ever since I learned that we doomed this bird, the passenger pigeon, to extinction from market hunting. The last one, named Martha, died in a cage at the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. Even as a kid of 8 or 9 years old, I could not understand how we could purposely drive something to extinction, and I still can't. So this essay section, this is my attempt to get folks to stop and look at some of the species we can lose if we don't start easing up on them. More than half of all species are projected to go extinct by the turn of the next century if we continue to take habitat like we have been. So I've done a few photo stories on rare species for National Geographic over the years, and one of my favorites kind of played off the passenger pigeon. It was the ivory-billed woodpecker. You ever heard of that bird? Quite rare. They thought it went extinct back in the 1940s, and some folks, though, thought they'd spotted them again in Arkansas, in the big woods of Arkansas, not too long ago. So I volunteered to go down and cover the search. Talk about a challenge. How do you cover something that might not even exist? This is a tall order. What do? Well, I started out by finding stuffed ones. First of all, I wanted to see what it looked like up close. There's one at the University of Nebraska State Museum. There he is. This is the spot where they think they discovered the bird again. A little bitty place on the Cache River in eastern Arkansas. Not very much land there. Not far from that overpass. Important to do an aerial. An establishing shot beyond that picture of the bird. Okay, here's biologists from Cornell, out in the cypress swamps, the hardwood forest, out looking for the bird. Nice soft light. It's a good kind of an intermediate shot. Shows us a sense of place. Now a little detail, a little prothonotary warbler coming out of his hole. That's shot with a little radio-triggered camera, like I showed you earlier in the course. I use that all the time. That's just set up on a cypress knee next to that one. And I fire it with a radio trigger watching through binoculars. No problem, a little nest cavity. So a nice little detail shot. This is a very wild, primitive place though. Look at this. The snakiest place I've ever been, and I wanted to show that as part of this picture story. So here we've got a water snake that's trying to swallow a catfish down in the mud. All right, that works, that works. And the group of Cornell biologists towards the end of my time there, all going out in the morning watching other woodpeckers. There's lots of other woodpeckers in the woods, very nicely lit, and just some people are in the shadows and some are in the sun. I love that dappled light look and plenty of depth of field to get us into the woods. It kind of feels like we're there. We're not seeing a person's face, the backs of them, oftentimes, that's fine. What does the ivory-billed woodpecker do? Well, he leaves a calling card. If he's there, he'd leave big holes in the trees. You know, that's what they're looking for, trees like that. Maybe he's there. But then again, it might have just been pileated woodpeckers, very closely related, but quite small. I sat up on a nest cavity in a blind and waited for 3 days to get a picture of a pileated woodpecker. They move like rocket ships through the forest. So there we go. What else do you do for a bird you're never going to see? I knew before I went down there, I had 2 weeks for this assignment. I knew I wouldn't see one. What else do you shoot? Oh, maybe you shoot the local diner where they're serving ivory-billed woodpecker burgers, just hamburgers, but they give them a funny name, and they have ivory-bill art on the walls. Maybe you photograph a man's decoys for ivory-bills that are out there. He's trying to put remote cameras, movement triggered on these decoys to see if any come in. That's him, Bobby Harrison, out in the woods looking around. Good guy. And there are a couple other Cornell guys just going out every morning at dawn, closing their eyes, having a sandwich at dawn, and listening for the bird. Does it exist? I don't know. But it was fun to do the story. It really was. For me, it's very satisfying to do something like this. The photographic essay, though, that's more of a picture story, beginning, middle, and end. The thing that's the most personal to me that I've been working on, Well, it's a thing I call the Biodiversity Project, and I've been doing it for 7 years. 7 years. It started as a way to do something close to home photographically while my wife was going through chemo for breast cancer. On days when she was feeling okay, I just go down to my local zoo about 6 blocks away in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I do a few portraits of small animals on black and white backgrounds in order to show off how interesting looking they were, really. Started off with these two species on my first day. Just put a couple of blue and black poison dart frogs on a piece of glass and a naked mole rat. That's how this started. So what else? What else? Well, I learned that it was pretty interesting. So went to the zoo in Omaha and I shot a little bit more. And I learned that if I put big enough backgrounds behind these animals, if the zoo gives me permission, well, we can make all sorts of things stand out. What's the point of this, by the way? The point is, I thought it was visually interesting at first, and I love animals. I have since I was a kid, and who doesn't like animals? Most of us love them. And I thought, wow, these animals, they're living works of art. That's amazing to me. And they're so ferocious. Damara land mole rats, they actually form a eusocial colony. One of only 2 mammal species to do it. These are soldiers sticking their teeth up trying to bite at me. Elephants and cheetahs, anything I could do. I just thought, is it interesting enough? I've done a lot of species this way. Is it interesting? I think so. Even though it's on black and white backgrounds, 2-headed turtle, how could you not look at it for a little while? Or a Wakari monkey, one of the few that are in captivity. I think there's only 3 in the entire North American continent. Arabian oryx, meerkat, vipers, snow leopards. Wow. So the list goes on and on and on. These species, all of them, to me, have value. And that's the key. As I've gone forward with my geographic work, I've learned a couple things. One is that zoos are arks. They're modern day arks. Some of these species only exist in zoos now. So it's important, I think, to document them for posterity. Zoos have a pretty good inventory of things right now, but will they in another 10 years, 20 years, as things in the wild continue to diminish? I don't know. What is it about these pictures that I hope people will cling to? Well, I hope they will look at them and think, wow, that's interesting. I want to learn more about that. What's going on with this? That's my goal anyway. In any event, how did I really get going on this? After I shot these for a while, I realized, you know what? I've shot things out in the wild, tons of things, but it's better when they're in an aquarium up close. I've shot these turtles on the beach just like that. I think, no, the aquarium's probably better, probably more interesting, eye to eye. How about this drill in the bushmeat market? Well, better if you put a piece of velvet behind him. You really engage him there. You really do. And so I started taking these backgrounds with me and my little portable lights wherever I go in the world. And I photograph little things that we can manipulate easy, put them back into the wild unharmed. I've got a little containment vessel for birds. I go out with biologists that are trapping birds for banding. I always work with biologists, and I try to show the world what biodiversity looks like. Why would I do something like that? Well, I just think it's important. I don't know why exactly, but I think it's really important. I have something like this. People will say to me, well, what good are these animals? Well, these are hibernating Arctic ground squirrels. It's a male and female. They take so long to wake up. They're world champion hibernators. It takes them about 4 hours to wake up. So they're at a study center at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. There's a male and female there. It was about Valentine's Day when I shot this. Just put them literally in a snowbank. They hibernate through the coldest of winters. They're laying there, put them in a little heart shape. It was around Valentine's Day. Why would we care whether an Arctic ground squirrel sticks around into the next century? Well, they're world champion hibernators. They can sleep 8 months a year without hurting their kidneys. They can supercool their blood to below freezing, and they can actually heal traumatic brain injury in their sleep, unlike any other mammal we've ever seen. So a lot of medical secrets could be locked up in this animal. So that's what good this Arctic rodent is. What secrets lie in this? I don't know. But I think about these things all the time as I'm shooting. I think, what good is it? Well, to me, they're wonderful. They're absolutely beautiful. And they're worth saving. Besides, the colors, that keeps it interesting. In all these pictures, by the way, I'm thinking about what I've been teaching you through this whole course. Leading lines, rule of thirds, something interesting, beautiful light, clean background. Every one of them, I'm thinking that every time I shoot. I also happen to be thinking, well, this is one of 9 of these left. The Sumatran rhino, one of 9 captive, one of 3 captive Florida panthers left. Amphibians are really getting hit hard, actually, really hard. We're liable to lose half of all amphibians in the next 10 to 20 years due to climate change and a fungus is sweeping the world. How bad is it? Well, I went to an amphibian lab in Ecuador, and the guy said, take a picture of that one, last one. Then he brought out another, take a picture of that one, last one. Take a picture of that one, last one. Hard to believe. I'm seeing the passenger pigeon all over again. This rabbit actually went extinct when I was creating the last book I did on this subject called Rare, Portraits of America's Endangered Species. So, gee, time might be running out. You know the good news though, the really good news, that for all these critters, all of them, they can all be saved. All it takes is somebody to pay attention to them. It's not too late for these guys. It is absolutely not. Given attention and funding, literally any of you out there could save a species or 2 or more if you tried. Visiting a local zoo or aquarium, it's a great place to start. You know why? Because these are the places that fund captive breeding programs for endangered species. They fund habitat protection in the wild. They also educate the public. Most of us live in cities now. Zoos are the only places where we actually see wildlife. So that's amazing. That's huge. And that's my hope in doing these pictures anyway, to get people to care. Look these animals in the eye and say, yeah, that's awesome. That's worth saving. It totally is. Oh, okay. So today I've photographed some 2,000 animals this way. Can you believe that? 2,000 out of the 6,000 captive in the US. And I realize it's an essay without end, really. I'll keep doing it for another 10 years as long as I can. If I can save a few species because the photos move people to action, mission accomplished. If it entertains them a little bit along the way, fantastic. So I've shown you a lot of pictures of these animals, haven't you? Haven't I? But I'll tell you what. Some of them are easy to work with and some are tough. So a lot of work goes into getting these shots, let me tell you. I want to show you what goes on behind the scenes in this little video I made. Faster! Well, as you can tell, the photographer doesn't always win. So don't forget, when you're doing a photo essay, the need for evergreen or non-perishable photographs is very important. You need to make sure that you have images that'll last and that won't go stale. You need to really think about what do you want to cover in a long-term project, and whether it will last through time, whether it's worth your time. The mark of a great essay is if it lasts, if you want to go back and look at it over and over again. You know, I love looking at the essay of different photographers over the years. Among National Geographic's very best, the photo essays by Bill Allard and Sam Abel, taken in the American West, are among my favorites, as is the wildlife work of folks like Chris Johns and Nick Nichols. Each time I look at them, I see something different, especially with the conservation photography. Those are pictures that actually go to work. Those pictures can make the world a better place. You know, there's no better thing in still photography than a great essay. And there are also no shortcuts for spending a lot of time on it. There just aren't. The more time you put in on it, the better the work will be. That's why it's so important to choose wisely, especially in the case of something long-term, a photo essay, something that's not just over the weekend but could last years. You are going to be married to this subject for a long time. Your assignment, last one for the course, hard to believe. Your assignment for this lecture is to shoot a favorite subject as a picture story, not an essay, just a short little picture story. You should shoot this in an afternoon if you want to, you sure could, but be sure to think about a scene set or a detail, close-up, nice moment, and an ending frame or a closer. Remember what I told you about working to get the most variety you can in terms of times of day, weather conditions, varying your lens choices, even emotions if you can find them. Remember that? Start your story with an opener, then get into the meat of things with some really grabby moments, sprinkle in your detail shots, and finish out with a strong closing image. Remember what we learned in editing. Put together only the very, very best frames. Return to reshoot something if necessary so that you've chosen a subject that you have a lot of access to. That's very critical. And so, my friends, that is it. It is up to you now, really. The training wheels are ready to come off. You ready to ride off into the sunset? That would be a good closing picture, wouldn't it? When you do, I will be standing right behind you, encouraging, smiling, cheering, and rooting you on. A final thought. I've said it before, but photography freezes time, something nothing else can do. How lovely is that? It's a great thing. So think of the things you've learned throughout this course and judge each photo carefully. Is the light good? What about the background? And above all, is it interesting? It sounded so simple when we started, didn't it? But right now, you know there's a world of subtlety in all of us. That's why I'm still in love with photography some 30 years after I picked up my first real camera. Now, I know you'll do great, but if you're still unsure of a thing or two, you can always contact me. Believe it or not, you can contact me at my website, www.joelsartori.com. We'll put it up on the screen for you. If the answer isn't there already on our FAQ or frequently asked questions page, just write, I'll be happy to help. You've actually sat with me through the whole course. I appreciate that. It's the least I can do. Now, go out there and make great pictures, pictures we all can be proud of. And thank you.